Hacks, mysteries, Bug Ego. Bug Ego Chapter 7's out. Now, I also didn't do a review on Chapter 6, so this is going to be a dynamic double review of 6 and 7, mainly because I forgot about Chapter 6. Um, Also, I was busy. Chapter 6 introduced a new character, and I believe going to be another protagonist for our group. Her name is Hashira Yuki. And it's this entire chapter, chapter 6, is based around Yuki. I mean, it starts with the boys and them. It talks about no, it doesn't start with the boys. I'm sorry. It starts with Yuki and her life basically growing up and how basically no one around her can relate. She starts thinking about like what would be happen if life wasn't restricted, and it cuts back to the boys trying to get a third member for their walking club. When you walk in, it's a club where they can investigate the hacks, but they needed to make a club so they could have a base of operations. They were tired of doing it at Hitsuya's house, so it's better to just have a base of operations. So eventually, they finally get her to do it after they get the club set up. But more importantly, she ends up catching him on one of the hacks. Because they told her basically, sign your name, you don't have to actually show up. But eventually, she catches them doing a hack. It's them going into like this grate in the ground. And it's like if you drop a key in there, you could like come out and see it. And so she ends up looking down in there to try to get the key out, not realizing they're doing a hack. And she ends up like seeing the world. And that alone is enough for her to be like, wow, this is incredible. And now she's ready to like work with them. And this is good because our two pro tags are idiots, right? I think his name is Hitsujiya, right? Hitsujiya is like not that smart. Is it Komodo? I think it's Komodo. He's also not much brighter. But this entire chapter is talk about how competent and smart Yuki is, which is instantly shown off in chapter 7. So chapter 6 was a very good chapter. It was very much set up. It was a very long chapter. Chapter 7 is about half the length of chapter 6, but chapter 6 needed to be that long to make sure that you got a decent view of Yuki as a character, which is very good. Chapter 7 goes to show exactly how competent this girl is. She's insanely smart. So this chapter starts off with all the characters sitting there with these interesting hairstyles, and it's basically it. I love how it starts the chapter off too. It starts the chapter off with this quote. It's like some things in this world are best left unknown. Some things in this world are best left untouched, and some things in this world are best left never acknowledged. Right? And then it says, but sometimes you don't make an effort to forget fast enough, and um, it shows Yuki kind of in like this bizarre world, like fighting this guy. And it cuts back to all three of the main characters, and they have just like freaky hairdos. They're testing out this hack that will straighten all the hair on your body, which is very funny. You basically just put grapefruit peels in all of your pockets, and you have to hold two AAA batteries, and all your hair will straighten if you hold it for 48 minutes. But if you have like AA batteries, your hair does whatever the fuck it wants. It's very stupid. And it starts with Hitsujiya saying, I don't get it. And then they're like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I don't get the point of these hacks. He's like, the more of these we do, the less of a point I get to them, the more they don't seem to mean anything. And they're just kind of bouncing this idea back and forth. They're like, we go to locations. It's weird that so many of them are location based. This doesn't make sense. And then they talk about the books some more. They talk about like, oh, well, the book is weird anyway because the sticker on the book keeps changing. That's a very common theme. It happened, I believe, in chapter 3 to maybe 4. I have to go back and reread 4. It might have happened in chapter 4. I know it did in 3 and 2. And the sticker keeps changing on the front of this book. And they start to think about, like, I don't know, it's just weird. Maybe there were multiple owners to the book. And they're like, okay, what makes you think there's multiple owners? And they go through the book and they're like, well, every hack is in a different handwriting. And in the back, there's like a section where it's basically people arguing in like the section. It's like people being like, oh, try not to think too much of this if you see this. And then someone being like, I'm watching you. And then someone's like, oh, what about this? And someone's like, don't listen to this guy. And the other one's like scratching it out, saying, shut up. And it's very funny. And they start talking about it, and they're just like, "Oh man, it doesn't seem like the people who all wrote these different notes knew each other, so it's weird they're kind of communicating." And like the mystery keeps getting different. He's like, "I guess we just keep testing the hacks. And Yuki shows up and she's just like, it's like you're following recipes and having a discussion group about the recipes. They're like, what do you mean? She's like, you keep making all these points about that you're trying to find the truth. And in reality, all you're doing is the same thing that everyone else in front of you has already done. You're not finding the new cake recipe. You're just following the one on the back of the box, essentially, is what she's saying, which is a very good point. They have mentioned a lot of times that they want to find the truth, whatever that means. But like, sorry, it's bothering me. But sorry, do you want to find the truth, which is what they kept saying they want to do. However, they're not really going out of their way to figure out like, hey, they're already saying that these hacks don't mean anything. I guess we just do more of them. They're not really thinking about like, okay, why do these hacks exist? What is the purpose of these hacks? Etc. etc. And so she starts to write this down. She's like, okay, she's writing all this down. She's like, they're only dangerous if but if they're so dangerous, then why are they easily reproducible? Like, why would you write something that's super dangerous down and say, here's how you do it, step one through six or whatever? Like, for example, uranium, making uranium at home is dangerous, which is why it's hard to figure out how to do so. You can figure it out, but it's very difficult. It's not easy to do because it's not something you should be doing. However, all of these hacks that are supposed to be extremely dangerous are easily to reproduce. You can easily do these at home as long as you have the right materials, or you can go to the location and perform these hacks, and it works every single time like clockwork. It's strange. And then she starts to think about like, and he's just like, well, in order to face these dangerous hacks, we're just trying to do what? She's just like, no, you're not trying to do anything. It's just your justification. You just want to keep doing them. She's like, the point here now is you're saying it's pointless to do these hacks, but you just want to keep doing them. You just keep doing them. You're not stopping yourself. She's like, if you really thought these were pointless, you'd stop. This is why they needed Yuki. Yuki is such a good character here because she's the one that's like thinking, oh, it's so great to have her. But she's like, if you wanted to stop these, just stop them. And he's sitting there like, oh, well, Komo was just like, well, ever since Hitsujiya, found out about the hacks, stuff that aren't in the notebook start to happen as well. Like he just bump into hacks out and about, and then she says, well, maybe it's not the hacks that's the problem; it's Hitsujiya. If the Hitsujiya maybe is attracting the hacks, he's not. If he's able to find hacks that aren't in the notebook, then maybe he's finding them. And they're just like, well, we can't say no to that. But but it's very good. She's like, you should either try to distance yourself or you should try to confront it. And they're sitting there like backpedaling. They're just kind of arguing back and forth. And he's just like, you're saying our ideas are pointless. Let's hear your idea. So she slaps a bunch of notes on the table. And you're just like, we told you not to take notes, right? Because you're not supposed to. And she's like, I'm taking notes because it's the same as this whiteboard, which is in the room that is made with a hack. So everything in there can't be seen by anyone else who doesn't do the hack. And she's just like, so it's the same as me taking notes on this hack, the same as me being in here with the whiteboard. Therefore, I can do whatever I want in here. Y'all can't stop me. Fair point. Extremely fair point. And she's been taking notes. She has all these clip-ins of weird events and all this other stuff. But she says, "Do you know the probability of Earth forming?" It's just like the odds are low. It's about as likely as somebody on the internet writing down the details of your life while blindfolded and randomly pecking at the keyboard, right? Like there is a chance it could happen. Very very low. But she then points out that maybe the stickers are like access to parallel worlds, which it's a very interesting concept here, very interesting idea. And they're sitting there thinking about it, and they're like, okay, so if it is the sticker, then like they make a joke about what if we put it on Hitsujiya and it zaps him out, and we get a different Hitsujiya, or even worse, you know. But then she starts throwing these things on the ground, or it's just like graffiti, crop circles, some more graffiti, just weird things happening, like vandalisms, all this other stuff, and it's all the same symbol. It's like an eye. So it's very weird. Regardless, she's just like, it's just a hunch, but I believe the same group of people are behind all these events, and they have something to do with the hacks because they're like, what? Because if you draw like all the locations of the hacks on a board, it makes the same mark. Now she said there's only 6 points that are needed left to be marked to complete the thing, but we're not sure what happens when that happens. And she's like, maybe some kind of hack could activate. So now they're sitting there like, oh, okay, so we need to find this group at some point. And she's just like, yeah, we need to go find them. I've already done it. And they're like, it's too dangerous. You can't go do that. She's like, no, I said I've already done it. She's like, I found the culprit, and I've locked them in this box. And the chapter ends. They're next to a supply closet, and she has locked someone in there that she has tracked down and captured, that she caught doing the acts of vandalism, and that's what the chapter is. And I'm gonna say it again. Yuki is probably the best addition to this squadron of idiots we've ever had. Granted, it was only 7 chapters in. Um, Definitely excited to see where this goes, because with this being like maybe there's a whole group and they know about the hacks, and that's whole thing, that plot line, insane right now. And like the fact that maybe they just capture someone who's a part of this group, they have a direct line of information, because maybe, yeah, it has to do with like parallel worlds or something, but then like what's with the symbol that seems to be somewhat consistent. And even if that's the case, if the notebook is constantly swapping, because you're not supposed to write in a notebook, then like that would explain why there's some hacks that aren't in the notebook, but maybe they're in some of the other ones, if that makes sense. Very interesting concepts here. I'm enjoying Bug Ego. I really, really like this series. If you guys are reading Bug Ego, let me know. What do you guys think is going on? What are you guys excited about? Do you feel like how do you feel about Yuki? I really like her. Like I said, I should have made this overview for chapter 6 and in chapter 7, but that's my own fault. I'm sorry, got busy. Your boy has a job. I work like 50 hours a week. It's my fault. But regardless, if you're enjoying this, let me know. This is pretty good. I am enjoying this. I mean, the story's by one, so obviously it's pretty good. But I also want to point out, who's it? Shitara, Kyoto Shitara is the artist for the series, and the art is phenomenal. It kind of reminds me of Usoguri, like the way they draw some of the characters. Absolutely love it. Anyway, drop down below what you're thinking about Bug Ego so far. If you're enjoying the series, let me know. This is pretty good. If you have any theories, I'd love to hear them, because I don't have any at the moment. But if I come up with one, of course, I'll make a video about it for you guys. Anyway, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.